Well, one of the things that comes to mind as you talk about sort of that inverted relationship where black females are starting to actualize their goals and they're seeing more opportunity, while at the same time black males is going the opposite. I remember when I went to get my graduate degree, my master's in counseling, I turned to my mate and I said, I just put myself out of work. As long as I'm sweeping and as long as I'm cooking, I'll be at work forever. So as soon as I start moving up that food chain in terms of my professionalism, I'm not going to be able to feed my kids. Because when you start making that money at that level, few brothers, even though qualified or unqualified. Now, Chris, I saw you nod your head. Are you familiar with situations where brothers have gone through that normal channel of schooling, that normal channel of professional development, et cetera, and at the end of that rainbow, there's not a pot of gold, there's a mess of crap?
Oh, and definitely the times we're living in now with the limitation on jobs available for college graduates, male or female. So to compound that fracture, yes. I have friends that are out of work right now that have master's degrees in various areas of education. But I want to go back to what you were saying about the frustration of the black male in relation to our professional black women. And I think a lot of times we tie too much of the monetary value of what we're making as to who the leader is or who the person who's going to dominate this relationship is. And I think we got to take the money out of it and get back to what it really is. I think one of the things or reasons why I'm not married now had nothing to do with money. It had nothing to do with feeling like I was inferior because my wife made more money than I did. It was really respect. And I think if you talk to most black men,
You feel disrespected?
they'll tell you that it's a respect thing. And I say that because it wasn't money that broke us up. And it wasn't her not doing her part in the house or me not doing my, it was a respect. And it's both ways too. But especially my way to the professional black woman. She's an executive director on her job, right?
Right.
Okay, so I just lost my job and I'm working in Best Buy.
Right.
So on her job, she's like this all day long.
She's director.
And it's hard to take that hat off. And we might not admit it, but sometimes it's hard to take your work hat off when you come home. You're used to dictating and pointing and giving people direction. And when you come in the house, women are natural organizers. Men, we don't have that natural skill to pack bags and put everything we're supposed to be in. We're going to forget something. You let your wife pack it. Most women can pack very well like that.
Yeah, I forget my
I'm not trying to minimize it to that. But just to say, the way we formulate how we think and make and do things is different. So, of course, if you have a woman and she's in that realm, she's dealing with, let's say, top tier white men. As you were saying, you lose us as she goes up the chain, educationally or within a job. So,
That's interesting.
how does she bring it down to come home and respect me? You know what I'm saying?
Well, if she's starting to lose you on the way up, then what would make her want to reach back, grab you, and pick you up with her? I mean, that's just more baggage. That's more of a burden. Wouldn't it be, Jerome?
To pick someone up and drag them along with
I mean, for a woman to reach back, grab a man, and bring her up with her.
Yes, that would be difficult, but I think one of the main things we're kind of overlooking here, I'm here to talk about black people. And when we look at our situation, we're totally out of touch with who we are. One of the things, I brought my book, and my wife just came in if she could get the book out of the car. A good friend of mine, James Morton, wrote a book. It's called Black People Don't Read. And in this book, he dispels, it's a follow-up to a film that he did called What Black Men Think. And as things have gone along in society, particularly with us, men aren't ever considered or spoken to about what men think and what we do and what's going on. He took a study. He took the Center for Disease Control, and he looked through at some of the things we're talking about black men. And when you look at the numbers, you look at the urban myths about black men, and you really look at the numbers, they aren't true. They just aren't true. When you look at the number of African American men in college, when you look at the numbers, it's 1.6 to every one man that's in college. When you look at the percentage of African American males who graduate from high school, someone would say 15%, who drop out. Some people would say 50%. That's the number that goes around all the time. But the number is closer to 15%. It's about 17%. But we start to regurgitate this information, and black men are sitting here, and we take all of this. We hear this all the time. We hear it in our own homes. We hear it from our parents. We hear it from our children. We hear it from our family. And this is not the kind of environment where you have someone who's supposed to be the head of the household, and the whole community is putting us down. You know, when I look at the black man, when we go out, there are things we deal with every day. Every day. So, you know, we're talking about someone picking someone up. Well, the way that my wife and I, the way we work, damn right she's supposed to pick me up. I'm supposed to pick her up. That's what we do. When she's down, I pick her up.
That's right.
When I'm down, she picks me up. And that's how we make it through this world, because everything out there, and you know, my wife and I, we have 2 children and had a daughter before we got married. And raising daughters, as a man, you know, I've been able to see some things that I didn't see before. Growing up as a male, we play ball. You know, guys grow up in an environment where it's a team concept. When we go to the playground, I go to the playground with my ball, and there's 10 other guys there. We roll it out, we shoot for it. If I don't make it, I don't play. If you go on the court and say, well, it's my ball, if I don't play, nobody play. Oh, no.
You're going to get a beat down.
Yeah. You know, you're going to know that that's not right. That's not how you do things. This is team. You know, you didn't make it this time, it's fair. You sit down, the next game, you might play. And everything is, I'm the tallest guy this time, so I check the tallest guy. It might be 7 feet tall, you know, but if I'm the tallest one, I got to do it for the team. And I watch my daughters, and I always, you know, when I'm talking to my group, I always give this example. My daughter was about 5 or 6 years old. She called a friend over. They were playing with Barbie dolls, right? And so she called a friend over. Her friend bought her a Barbie doll. My daughter had her Barbie doll. My daughter was sitting there talking, yeah, I've got the Malibu Barbie, and I've got the convertible Corvette, and I've got the beach house and everything she's playing. Her best friend is sitting right beside her. She's got the limousine and Barbie dolls going out with the gown, and she's a whole nother environment. They're sitting next to each other, but they aren't really playing together. You know, this one's controlled, she's controlling her doll baby in that world, the other one's controlling her doll baby in that world, but they aren't really interacting. And as little boys, we are ingrained into working together, giving and taking. So a lot of times, that's what we expect from that woman when we get together. We expect that give and take. And it's a different environment that they've grown up with. It's about, you know, I'm going to get married. And a lot of times women, you know, if we're honest, you're 12, 13, 15, you may know already what color you're going to have in your wedding, how many maids of honors you're going to have, what kind of cake you're going to have, where you're going to go. You know, we don't even think, hey, just tell me where I'm supposed to be. I'll be there. We're gonna do this thing, we're going to get married. I love you. I don't care where we're going to get married. We don't have to go, you know, and have a big wedding. So it's a different mentality, and that's cool, that's all right. But as you said earlier, Chris, we have to respect one another and understand those differences.
Well, something's happening because we're not respecting one another to some extent. I mean, that's why we're having this conversation. It didn't come out rolling around trying to start a fight. It came out of a bunch of conversations with folks over time. A few things did happen to spur this conversation, and I'm going to throw 3 of those things out right now. And Kelly, I just want you to give me your feedback on them. One is think like a man, act like a lady. The other is being Mary Jane, and the other is scandal.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. Okay, well, first of all, I would like to say that all of those are for entertainment purposes only.
That's not the way we do that.
In my world, they're for entertainment purposes only. I don't want to watch shows that look like my regular life, so those things entertain me. But in terms of think like a man, I really do feel, and my husband is here, and he's a great supporter, and we mutually respect each other. And it is so funny that you mentioned that, because he has some thoughts about the whole think like a man thing. But I really do believe that it is a necessary, it brought up some conversation. It got people talking. It got people thinking. And isn't that what entertainment is about? Now, are you going to use that book as a guide and follow, you know, pattern your life by it and follow every rule and now it's your Bible? You probably shouldn't. but it's something to consider in your dealings with the opposite sex, just to know a little something more than maybe what you're constantly thinking. It's my opinion about it. And as far as Scandal goes, I do watch the show. How do you know I watch these shows, Roland?
I didn't. I just guessed.
I do watch the show, not necessarily, so caught up on the fact that, there's been all this side piece talk going on lately. I heard on the Ricky Smiley morning show this morning, they were talking about the side piece, and they had side piece women calling in. But the fact remains that there's more to that show than just that relationship. And many people do think it's immoral and anti-family and, anti-marriage, and it is. It's, in a sense, there is glorification of the side piece in that Scandal. And in Being Mary Jane, the same thing goes on. But again, I think the important thing to look at, and honestly, a couple of my girlfriends are here, and when Being Mary Jane is on, we're on Facebook and doing our own commentary, and it brings up some really good conversation. Would you do this? Would you put up with that? How would you handle it? Who's right? Is the wife right? Is the side piece right? What do you think? And so if these kind of media and shows are bringing up conversation and bringing new points of view to the forefront, I think that's helpful.
Okay. Now, there's this theory going around in some circles.
Do we get to touch that question?
Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, we're going to. This is going to be part of it. There's a theory going around in some of the barbershops that the Scandals, the Being Mary Janes, the think like a man, act like a pit bull, or whatever the name of it is, that some of this is having an impact beyond just entertainment value with a lot of black folks, even grown black folks, that the conversation, some of the rhetoric, some of the responses we're getting from black women, black men, it sounds like you just watched Mary Jane last night. Some of the conversation that women are getting from us is, you got mad because you watched Mary Jane last night. So I'm trying to get some perspective drawn, Chris. I'm bringing this to both of you. I'm trying to get some perspective on the concept that whatever you take in, you sort of kick it out. So if your eyes and your ears are absorbing a certain frequency, that at some point you're going to kick that frequency back out. And if that is the case, in some ways, if that is the case, then are we, by virtue of that, creating a natural enmity, a natural hostility between black men and black women?
Very good.
Ooh, that's deep. I would say that those shows don't really perpetuate that hostility between us.
It's already there.
Yeah. I think we have to go further back in time to the role of black women since we've been brought to this country. They've always had to take a role of leadership and responsibility more than what people heard. Yeah, because, when you break up the family and, mom's stuck with the kids still, slave kids too. So they still cry at night, they still get up, and she still got to do her motherly responsibilities for these kids. At the same time, husband is missing or either been stripped away from the family. So that role for black women, I don't think has ever changed, even to right now. Wow. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So, and then when you throw in the added development of men and women, or boys and girls, and what women have to do at such an early age to be ready for anything. Let's just say, take a number out the sky, 9, woman starts getting a period. Well, now she has to make a plan. I have to have my tampons, I have to have my wipes, I have to carry my purse. Guys, boys, we don't have a responsibility until we have to get a license, and then we might put the license in our pocket, and by the time we're 21, we might have a wallet. Wow. So whereas the woman's mindset during that whole time, they're always preparing.
They get prepared.
And I think what we have to do is try to kind of go back and see, how do we start preparing the young men earlier to be responsible so that we can meet our women on the level that we're talking about, so that we're not so unevenly yoked.
Well, back in that time, well, let's say last 20, 30 years, or 20, 30 years ago, the level was, as you said, unequally yoked, and you made the gestures with your hands. 30, 40 years ago, the level was the men were up here, and the women were at a lower level, so to speak, either economically, in college, again, home being one thing, but in terms of this leveling of the relationship, now men are now having to come up to where black women are. Black men are having to come up to where black women are. Jerome, what is some, getting back to those shows, but also what is happening now that makes us feel, and I hear it all the time, that we feel all of a sudden we're not worthy, or the black female feels that we're not worthy of them?
One of the things is television, the images, and the words that we use. You just said come up to a level. What are we talking about, man? We're people. Because you have a job, because you have a degree, you're at a certain level.
That's the definition.
There was a time when we were black people. We were families. No one was above anyone. No one. I remember growing up in the 60s, man, when you walk down the street and you see a brother on the other side of the street, and you, what's up? I don't know the guy. What's up? Because I know it's a black man. He's going through the same things I'm going through. We're going to even kill, even though I don't know him. And we keep talking about, someone being above someone. What are we talking about, man? What are we talking
What's
about?
happening right now?
No, it's not what's happening. It's what we're creating. It's not the society. They don't control what goes on in my house. My wife and I control that. And how we talk to our children, how we talk to one another. We're telling our daughters that they're over our sons. And then we wonder why men feel the way that they feel. We have to start listening. And anyone who works in computers, garbage in, garbage out. If we're watching, I don't know a lot of men who look at who look at these shows and are in any way positive about these shows. These are black women. I hate to see our black women as hoes. I hate it. We can call it a side piece. We can call it whatever we want to call it. I worked in television for over 20 years, different aspects of it, behind the camera, in front of the camera. And you look back in the 60s when Amos and Andy came on, they took it off the air. Because it's not because the show was that bad. It was because it wasn't balanced. And when we look at television now, you look at any of the network shows, you'll see one niglet on the show. That's all you'll see, maybe. And then tell me one show that has a positive male, a positive couple, black couple, man and woman married on the show. Name one of them. Name one. But we see these images of our women, our beautiful women that black men love. We're in love with you all. But we don't see you, and then we see you being comfortable and feeling that you're empowered because I'm sleeping with the President of the United States, because I have a job. But what is your character about? We're proud of this woman what's her character? What's the one about Jane, baby Jane, or whatever it is?
Jane.
We get Oscars, we get Emmys, particularly Oscars.
Well, let's go back. I mean, the Oscar for Halle Berry was Monsters Ball. Mm-hmm. The Oscar for...
She slept with one of the dirtiest white men in Hollywood.
Right. Okay, the Oscar for Denzel Washington was Training Day.
Right.
A crooked police officer.
Right.
Getting high all day long with a nice, clean white boy.
The Oscar for Cuba Gooding Jr. was not Boys in the Hood, it was Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, show me the money. Show me the money. We're greedy, we're ignorant, we're sex-driven. These are the images, and they applaud that.
Well,
we get awards for that.
But the question is that you said, mm-hmm. Let me make a statement, then I'm going to ask a question. You said that does not define your household, that does not define who we are. But you're also saying that it is affecting our household, it is affecting who we are.
Yes.
I'm going to direct this to Kelly. Kelly, from that standpoint, when you, and again, clinical or non-clinical is irrelevant at this point. Mm-hmm. All we're doing is talking about some things that people don't have the courage to talk about, so I appreciate you all doing it. Courage or not courage, Kelly, you're a black female. You grew up around black men. You grew up entertaining black men. You grew up talking to black men. You grew up dating black men. You married a black man. Now, the image of a black man to you, we're going to take the fact your husband is here, and I know that that may It may change some of how you present it. But when you think of what a black male should be for a black woman, is it the character that you find in Training Day? Is it the character that you find in some of these other movies, the music? Is it the President of the United States who just happens to also be sleeping with this other woman? So it's not just her sleeping with somebody, it's also him. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Now, in what ways does that man appeal to you, or what ways do you look at him and discuss as well?
Right, I think we have to be real here about what entertainment and media is. And I think our views about ourselves and about our relationships and about our roles started way before we started watching a television show. So to answer your question, Roland, yeah, I grew up with two older brothers who are, when my brother is here, and along with my husband, as I said earlier. And my dad, I had a dad in my life, and uncles, that's where my view of what a black man is and should be, as far as a husband and a father, and even my brothers and the way they represent it. And I think it starts before you get to a place where you're bombarded, if you are, by negative images. So you have to really be real about who you are and what you believe in. Aren't there some boundaries? There have to be boundaries between you and what you see and what you experience. Your beliefs were ingrained in you already by the time you were 10 years old. So the reality is I think we have to be fair and know that, yeah, there's influence and exposure coming from lots of places. But the real question is, who are you? Where did you formulate your opinion of yourself and your belief in what you should be?
Okay.
What kind of support did you have? And so no, that character in Training Day would not appeal to me. And honestly, if I could just say, in being Mary Jane, now the husband character is the one who is pursuing the black woman outside of his marriage. So it's not a fair statement to kind of put in place that she herself.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. He's also playing a harlot, right? All right, so Chris, now as I come to you, let's be real here, as Kelly said. Television is one thing, real life is another. I picked up the cover of Black Enterprise magazine maybe about a year ago. Now, mind you, this is Black Enterprise magazine. On the cover is a dude who is dressed similar to the way that Jerome is dressed right now. And he's holding his lapel and he's looking up because he's upwardly mobile. And he says, in quotes, I'm educated, I am informed, and I'm gay. And I'm on my way up the ladder. And under it says something to the effect of the gay black male is the new button. And now I'm hearing conversations from younger black males, as I used to hear from younger black females about, I have to go get my husband before I go to college, because when I get to college, there aren't going to be any. I'm also hearing now from young black males and older black males, man, if I was gay, or if I feminized myself a little bit more, whatever that might mean. And I'll give you a perfect example in terms of me personally. I worked in a school, and as they were ushering me out the door, the guy said to me, the biggest problem with you is you're a man's man. And I said, what the hell does that mean? He said, you're too much of a man. And that's not going to work in these environments now. Why? He said, because it's a co-ed environment, it's not all boys school anymore, like Mackin where you went, and we have to now take an approach that diminishes the value of manhood as we knew it 30 years ago, and we have to elevate this androgynous kind of viewpoint, Roland, where you have to take the bass out your voice, and you have to reduce all of the characteristics that your father gave you growing up. Chris.
Pretty interesting question. Working in the entertainment industry, the gay and lesbian lifestyle is just a part of it, entrenched in it. Thinking about the demographic you're talking about with gay men, and then that relating to me as to how it affects me, with them being able to make the leaps and bounds that they're making in what they're doing. I've always felt like you don't need to bring your sexuality and use it as a flag to promote yourself. You know, i.e. the football player that just came out,
Yes.
said he's gay, and I don't have anything against his lifestyle. I just think that you do your job, and that'll show and prove. But I think that society has now put an incentive into the equation to say, hey, you know, be bold enough to do this, and this you can reap these benefits. Come out and say this, and we're in an age of acceptance now, I would say. So we're supposed to accept, even let's say if I'm totally against that, I don't have a position not to accept it.
Right, you can't say. I have a
I'm
problem with
now
that.
ostracized
Right.
if I have an opinion adverse to that is being presented to me.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with saying, I think that, you know, I don't walk around with a heterosexual flag over my head.
Right.
And I don't think it should be turned around the other way either. At the same time, I don't think you should discriminate against anybody if you do know that they
I'm sleeping with somebody.
live a certain lifestyle. I don't want to be discriminated because I'm black. I don't want to be discriminated because I'm
Well, let's
heterosexual.
go back there. So what happens now is you talk about meritocracy. Basically, you should be rewarded or given opportunity based on what you do and how you do it. And for black males, I know throughout history, every time I read something, that's never been the case with black males, that we're rarely rewarded for who we are and what we do. We're often rewarded by whomever decides to reward us. Again, unlevel playing field. If that is the case, and that is historically, and some of that still continues in modern day society, then would it not, Jerome, Chris, Kelly, would it not then have the kind of, I want to feed my children. I want to continue to move up the corporate ladder. If I know that by me turning my lifestyle a certain way is going to help diffuse some of the obstacles that I run into, wouldn't it only make practical business sense for me to adjust my lifestyle and adjust or change the way that I approach things so that I can feed my kids?
That was my question.
You can
I
start
think that's a
off.
good one for you.
And don't come at me, Jerome, with the, well, you know, we're this and this and that. Let's talk about it real today. We have to feed our children. Don't nobody, Giant Food doesn't give a damn whether or not how I get that paycheck when I need to go to the grocery store and I need to buy some whatever. They don't care. But I know that the person I'm working for looks at me and is either scared to death because I got shoulders or is a lot more enamored because I have a lot less bass in my voice. And you run into this too, you 6'9", and you run into this all the time. Talk to me.
You gave me about 6 inches there, but I'll take it.
I'll take it.
You know, it all comes down to who you are. You know, if
There
you
you
really-
go. You told me that again.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep on telling you that.
Okay.
It depends on, you know, I mean, if.
But we're not talking about who we are individually. We're talking about us as a society.
Well, I'm talking about you as an individual, you know, and as,
Okay.
as a people.
Okay.
But I think when you, who are we fooling here? When you look at the society that we live in, we talk about real power, real power. How many of those people at the top of Congress now, you know, some of the people that run along are gay, but when you look at corporate heads, even in entertainment, you have some spotted, Colonel Davis, you know, people like that who are bi or whatever, but most of the people that really have the power are old white men or Jews, and they aren't living that lifestyle. The people who are working their way up, most of the times are the ones who have to, how can I say, compromise themselves in order to move up. We have to determine, we as a people, individuals, we have to understand our situation. We always talk about we're in this situation, we have to conform to them. That's why we're in the position now, is that we have to conform. First of all, we don't know who we are. We don't know our past. We don't know that the things that everybody else is living. And, you know, you hear that all the time, but we really don't. We don't know our spirituality, and so we know how we're made, what this melanin does. And once we can hold on to who we are, then we can stand. We talk about the things that we go through now. That's nothing, man. We look at our parents, our grandparents, what they went through. Somebody's, you know, they're not gonna give you a job. Ooh, boo-hoo, like I'm gonna be gay, I'm gonna bend over because I can't get a job. Come on. I mean, where are our men? You know, where are we going to stand up and say, this is my family? Back in the day, they would take a slave, they beat him in front of everybody. And what happened? The mother would be there with her child, and they would take the boy and put their hand in front of him and say, get behind me. They're going to beat you, so you just be quiet, hold your head down, don't say anything. Right? Because I don't want them to do that to you. The same thing we're going on today. But what happened to that buck? That buck, after they beat him, he'd get up, he'd limp over to his family, they'd take him back in their little hut that he was in, a broken down hut. And he'd get over there, while they're licking his wounds, he'd talk to his son and say, okay, son, it's okay, we're going to be quiet now. But he's talking to him in 5, 10, 15 years when that buck grow big. They got a plan where they're not just going to keep taking this stuff. They've got some kind of plan to deal with this stuff. It might not work, but that father's still talking about how to deal with that issue. And what happens is when we run against these problems, we keep stopping and holding on. And we keep turning to people and asking them for our solutions, when our solutions are inside ourselves. Bring our family together. Men stand, women support our men because we're going the same way. The issue we're having now with these single mothers is that men are not standing up to their responsibility. They're leaving, and that's another issue. Anytime you have a couple, every relationship has two people in it. So both people have to take some of the blame for what happened between them. I'm not going to get into all that, but that's something we don't deal with enough. And so when they're together, it has to be a situation where they're supporting each other for the good of the family. And we don't hold on to that. All this stuff going on around us, the things that we're taking in. Yes, your mind does not know when you're watching TV that it's just entertainment. It doesn't know it. It's whatever it takes in, it brings it in. It knows that I saw that, and that's how that couple reacted. When you watch the judge shows, when you watch reality shows, when you watch these shows where, like I said, I worked in television for years. I worked in the school system for 12 years teaching, so I see what happens to our children when they are watching television and they come into the school and their mothers come and they don't even know what's going on with their children because they're watching those things and the things that they're teaching them, and they say, I'm the father and the mother. And we just laugh at them. Men know better than that. Or did I answer your question?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean,
I get going sometimes. I'm passionate about this.
No, I mean, it's not, I mean, I don't need it, I don't need a waiver. We're just gonna keep going, Kelly. The African-American male is, let me restate this. There's a perception among many African-American males that I talk to that the African-American female is dating her son. That she's married to her job, and that she dreams of obtaining that which she can without her man, or without a man. Independent, strong, black woman. Those three terms I hear every day, all day long. Independent, strong, black woman. And independent, strong, black woman that the black male perceives is married to her boss, married to her job, dating her son. Are these perceptions that we have, and it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, yes or no, are these perceptions that we have among the women that you talk to informally, are these perceptions that we have way off base?
I think so. Among the women that I talk to and have regular fellowship with, I think there's an understanding of what's important to them in terms of their relationship with a man. And it goes back to what both of my esteemed panel mates here have said. It's about respect. If there's mutual respect and we have mutual regard, that supersedes the negatives that can come into a situation. And I don't think that any black woman wants to feel that way. I think black women want to have a partner. They want to have a mate. They want to be supported. And when you're in a marital situation, the reality is that, again, where did your beliefs come from? Where did you start? What did you see? What were your examples? And are you willing to grow together? You know, but you have to have some kind of receptacle in yourself where that is okay with you. You know, that we're not looking at things like, you know, I've superseded the black man and where he used to be. If I'm not looking at things in that way, then that's not the barometer that I'm using to rank our relationship or gauge it.
Okay. Now, I'm going to give you, Chris, I'm going to give you a couple scenarios. Kelly, I want you to hear this very clearly. Jerome, I want you to hear this very clearly. All right? One day, my toilet isn't working at home. And I'm at work. And the wife says, we need to call a plumber. Great. And I'm living in upstate New York. Okay, I'm going to come home and make sure the plumber's coming. You're there by yourself. And no, not only are you not coming home, but I'm taking all your pictures off the wall. And when this plumber gets here, he's not going to know there's a black man lives here. And from a strategic standpoint, I got it. And I said, okay. And when it was all said and done, it was a $300 job that he didn't charge her for. Had I been this job, would have cost $600. I've been around white men all my life. I've been around black men all my life. And there is some distinctive things that I listen for, watch, and understand. When, as a black man, I've had to, time and time again, Jerome, Kelly, and Chris, back up, back out, walk away, or be absent, so that she and the kids benefit from something that had I shown up, would never get.
I think that's a part of that compromise we've been talking about. You know, to be a man and be able to, submit yourself like that and not, raise the roof because you think, no, I'm going to be there for it, but you knew the better thing for your
I
family.
disagree with you.
And it
I'd rather pay the $600.
You rather pay the $600? I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not going to say I want my wife to compromise her position and then allow somebody to invade her space. I wouldn't agree to that. However, if you can save us $600, baby, save that $600.
Kelly?
I'm going to be honest with you, I have never really thought about that scenario the way you're mentioning it. So, yeah, I don't think if the husband is home and the worker is coming, I would not even fathom the thought of, babe, be absent. I never have thought about it, but I can imagine that it would happen and occur the way you are describing in many cases.
Jerome?
I'm lost, I'll be honest with you. No, really, my first thought is, if it's a $300, $400 job, and because your pictures aren't there and he's there with your wife by herself, there's only one way I can imagine him not charging her anything. I'll be honest with you.
That's true too.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe my mind's in the scandal or whatever. But that's the thing. Why?
Well,
I understand.
okay, so I will
I'm trying to
explain.
understand.
I will explain it to
Something
you.
you tell me
No,
about.
dude, ain't nothing I didn't tell you. I'm going to explain it to you.
Okay.
All right. Outside of Washington D.C., especially, there is a different culture out there. Chris, if I'm wrong, you tell me. But when I left Washington D.C., there was a certain status. There was a certain type of gravitas that black folks, especially black males, had in Washington, D.C. when I left in 1982 to go away to college. When I went to college, I did not see that same response from the rest of society. Matter of fact, D.C. was a chocolate city, so we walked around D.C. and didn't think anything about being a black male. I didn't know I was a quote-unquote black male until I went someplace else to go to school. What I found out over time was that other cultures would much rather do business with, hire, and deal with a black female than they would with me. 99% of the time. And oftentimes, they would take a pricing and raise it when I'm around. Oftentimes, they would not even want to accept the job when I'm around. And I would do studies with other brothers in those areas and do the same thing. And say, tell me what the response is going to be. Tell me what the response is that you get. And many of the brothers will tell you. I had a good friend, Loxley. He's watching the show. He's down in North Carolina. And he had to take everything off his wall to sell his house. And he had to make sure that he wasn't there when the people came over to look at his house. Now, am I the only black male that's ever experienced this?
Absolutely not.
There's a difference in price. No, but I would have a problem. I was thinking that you said it would be $300, but you gave it to him for free.
Well, he gave it to him for free because he found favor in being around a black female who fit the fantasy that he has in his mind any damn way. So it didn't really matter what the conversation was. She smiled, she made him feel like a human being. His heart started beating a little faster. Other parts of his body got pretty excited too, I'm sure. And then what happens is he's like, hey, now he gets to go and tell his boys that, hey man, I was with this sister, I did it there, I didn't charge nothing, man, blah, blah, blah. And that was his thing. And then he's hoping that, hey, she'll invite me back and do this again and fix her next plumbing problem. And understand that his job or his goal was to create an affinity with this black woman. He didn't know anything about husband. It didn't matter. If she had a husband, he'd have come in straight lace, straight business, he'd have charged her double. But because he was dealing with a sister and he was in a comfortable situation, his natural fantasy came true.
Yeah, I'd have a problem with that.
Well, I mean, understood.
I wouldn't put my wife, he's gonna come in, he's gonna give me a deal, he's gonna kiss my wife, and I don't need to plumbing that bad. To $200, and I'm gonna put my wife in that position where, okay, come on, baby, smile.
Well, it wasn't a matter of,
Get this done.
understand. You said compromise, you said working together. It's not a matter of a man putting in that position. It's a matter of if your wife tells you that I'm just telling straight up, I'm sure you dealt with situations where your wife disagreed with you on how to approach a certain something. Mm-hmm. So we disagreed on the approach. Now what happens is which approach is going to be taken, hers or mine? Bottom line.
But you asked me how I feel.
Right.
Right. I'd have a problem with it.
I think with the scenario you presented.
No, not that actually how you feel, would you have a problem with it?
I'm sorry.
If that was the question, then I asked the question wrong. What I'm saying is, in this situation, as it occurred, have you ever experienced that kind of situation before, and how did you handle it?
I can't say I have.
Chris?
Well, I've experienced that situation before. Not so much that same scenario, but we were able to get a deal with her working the deal more so than me jumping in to try to work the deal. Now the flip side of that is, say something with her car. She would never do anything without the car without taking me, because she know I can handle it. I would be able to make sure that that's going to be handled the right way, because I know what's going on with the car. So what I'm saying is, your wife used that situation to get out of it what she got out of it for your family, to make that happen. Just like when she would say, hey, bub, I'm getting ready to take my car to the shop. I need you to go with me so I don't get scammed. I think we have to that's kind of a gray area there with what we're talking about, because I know where you're coming from. You're not going to be in the house with my wife, fixing nothing without me there.
Kissing too?
And then get a kiss out of it. And that's why I was going to the private space.
I don't know if you had a
intimate
kiss,
space.
say you wouldn't kiss her. No.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but I think that we learn how to use each other in different scenarios to get the best results. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, if that's where we're going. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If it is something that compromised her position where somebody was in her private space, then yeah, I'd be totally against that. But if we're using each other for the greater benefit of the family to get what we need done, then that's
right. So and in this scenario, there was no compromise. That was not what I thought.
Okay, there was no compromise.
That was not what I thought was the best scenario or situation. What I'm saying is, when it came down to it, the decision had to be made, and of course, the decision that was made was her decision. And part of the reason why it was her decision, I throw this back out to the panel, is I was petrified of making a decision different from the one that she wanted to make. I was petrified of making a decision different than the one my two sisters were making. Chris, you know my two sisters.
Right.
I was petrified of making a decision different than the one my mama wanted to make. Now I can sit down and have a conversation with my dad and my uncles. How many conversations did I have with my sisters, Chris?
Right. And I think we inherently, men in that situation, the first thing we think is, I'm gonna keep the house peaceful. I don't know why it's like that, but I know for me, in my situation, that's how it was for me. How do I keep the peace in this house? And I think that's what we get caught a lot of times as men, is we shut up. My first instinct is to avoid the conflict, is just not to add to it. And that's not always the best. You're a therapist, that's not the best way to handle it all the time. We internalize so much as men, and we let it fester inside of us, and then it blows up. And then it's kind of like too late. So I can imagine where you're coming from, knowing that decision that you conceded to, if I can use that word.
No question.
You conceded to that decision because you felt like stepping out there was going to create a conflict. And you wanted to avoid a conflict. Like I said before, it's not always the best way to handle the situation, but that's what you did at the time.
Okay, so here's the thing. Black females, Kelly, let me throw this to you. All right? Black females, in my history dealing with sisters, when I found myself on the opposite end of whatever direction they wanted to go through, I found myself having a serious problem keeping peace. Now, I'm not just talking about a mate, I'm talking about in general, at work, whatever. That for whatever reason, there was this inherent conflict that was always going on between me and a black female over something. There was a competition, there was a battle, there was always this comeuppance, or always this kind of jockeying for position, privilege, performance, whatever it is. In other words, I am accustomed to competing against a black male or other males in athletics, etc. I was shocked when I found myself having to compete philosophically, etc., with black females. And one of the biggest places was in the college classroom. Oh my goodness. I mean, there were classrooms where I just said, I'm not even going in there, because sisters would light me up for no damn reason as far as I was concerned. Now, Kelly, our black females, do you notice black females are shorter with black males, less tolerant with black adult males than they are with other people? Are the expectations of black females inherently so profound or so high that we're not meeting them, and that's creating more of the frustration? Why is it that we are observing this kind of conflict going on every time, many times, when we're involved with females that we should be working with, cooperating with, etc., and we end up having this battle?
That's a good question. I can't speak for every black female,
No,
of
just-
course, I
just-
know,
just have a
really.
general conversation.
And I have had this conversation, socially. I wonder if this goes back again to the respect level. So if I'm in a situation with black men, or a successful or professional black woman is in a situation with black men, you kind of have to think about, okay, what is her frame of reference? Where is she coming from? Why is there that competition? Is she not respecting, that we're all on the same playing field, so to speak? I don't know that might have been a question to ask these guys, because if I am the black woman in that scenario, I don't necessarily recognize it, but I have been told that I'm strong-willed. I have been told I have control issues. I have been told you have to be right. I have been told you're stubborn. And those are qualities that I think they're not always negative, but they come from a place where, again, being the younger sister with two older brothers, and I'm kind of like the type of personality anyway that I kind of came into the world with, that, oh, it's out there, oh, I can do it. I never really even believed that there isn't a wall that I can't knock down. So I think you got to look at other factors. Is it just because there's a black man there, or is it my personality? Is it the way I was brought up? Is it the Harriet Tubman in me? What all contributes to why I feel and react and respond the way I do in various situations?
Chris?
I don't notice it though, to be honest with you, Roland.
Well, Roland, you know me all my life, so you know my family history and the story between my mom and dad.
Yes.
My mom was very dominating. My father was
Understand what you're saying. Your mom was very dominating.
very dominating. Now, you know my father was a very, very strong man, black man, period. He's just a strong man. And one of the things I mentioned before that I noticed from him was how he avoided conflict. How he did, in certain situations, just shut up and not say anything. Well, that example that I saw from him gave me the example not to be like that from my perspective. So, getting back to how my mom was, it's difficult to meet somebody on that playing field with the children standing there and people around, and you don't want to raise that dirt so high you can't breathe. And I watched how my father diffused certain situations like that. And when I was mentioning to you about avoiding a conflict, I saw how he avoided a lot of things and why he avoided. I think the thing for me was to understand why he avoided it. It wasn't necessarily that he was weak or he didn't want to stand up to it. He was really trying to avoid a bigger situation. Now, whether that was from him letting that beast out that all men have in them.
Why do you think a black man like your father would not voice his opinion or state his point or maintain his stance? Because he was worried about there being a bigger confrontation. Why was that even an issue? Why couldn't a black man, why is it that a black man can't take a position that he really believes in because he's concerned that it's going to lead to a bigger confrontation with his black woman? Why is that even happening?
I think it's a case-by-case scenario. Knowing your spouse, knowing, you know my mom. So where's the ceiling? Do you keep going up that ladder with her to meet her and show who's the boss? Or is there a point where you say, you know what, maybe I don't fight that battle? And I'm not saying he didn't fight any battles. I'm just saying at the time that was going on, he chose not to fight those battles at those times. Now, what they did in their bedroom, I have no idea how he handled that situation. You know, but at those times when we were around, I think what he was trying to do was avoid the argument, avoid the physical confrontation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a time and a place, like you say, for everything. But what I learned from him doing that, it was how to approach a situation where I feel uncomfortable and not wanting to voice what I want to say. I didn't go into my marriage like that. I did speak up, and I noticed at those times, sometimes when I did, maybe I should have backed out sometimes like he did. You see what I'm saying? It's a fine line there.
I mean, honestly, it sounds like a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure.